All right, you guys you should be able to see it and share it if you want.
Yeah, I'm going to share it to my page.
I think I can't see that. Let's see if I can drop this little. Once you share it, you can turn it up.
Yeah, you can't really see it, man.
Well, it's gonna lower, but the problem is it's on the beam, so it won't go. Push pins won't go in.
Sure.
Let's save this for the time portion. I can't do it. Share mine. Turn the sounds off. Well, one's probably if you shared it, one's probably you because
All three of us were on the page.
I'm not on you though.
There's two people. Who's your life from EDC,
Yeah,
Texas?
Sure, I'm trying to share it on mine. What in the? This thing's being done.
Yeah, I'm good. But I think this thing is going to be acting up. I think we're going to need more time to set it up. But,
Is there anyone besides? Well, there's 4 people. There's only 3 here, so that means there is one person watching.
so whoever's watching out there, thank you.
Oh, they went away. God dang it.
They were like, these people don't know what they're
Now it sounded 2. Who here quit? Oh, Lord.
EDC, Houston, coming at you live. My boy DJ
Actually, I
Pendejo.
can kind of see it on here.
Yeah, a little bit. My boy DJ Pendejo in the mix.
Do I know to adjust? Does it look a little off? Maybe I need to adjust it a little bit. It's a little tilted. It's tilted.
tilted from
Yeah.
the camera side or the other side.
Is that any better?
A little bit, yeah. Yeah, we're going up.
Does it need to go more?
No, I think it's good.
You sure?
I'm looking at the camera.
Looks fine to me.
Okay, yeah, it looks
Looks
good.
fine now.
You can actually see it all now, not even straight. Alright. 6:06, let's kick this off. There's ain't nobody watching, but whatever. Go play back. We finally have Richard with us. Don't censor us, Facebook.
Not at the Roxbury.
Alright. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you're watching from. Welcome to Texas Soccer Live, episode 26. As you can see, it's not just me, Sean Tellez, and not just Raul Villarreal, but we have live in the flesh Richard Romero joining us, our third member of the team.
Hello, everyone. How's everybody doing? We got another week, another month.
Exactly.
Full of energy.
Raul, did you want to shout out our intro music for anyone who tuned in early?
Yeah, I want to give a shout out to, I didn't give his actual DJ name out, but my boy Charlie he went to Bel Air. I mean, he's cool, real nice guy. He let me dance with his child, a.k.a. Chucky. But yeah, shout out to him, DJ Charlie, a.k.a. DJ P. But yeah, he was our intro music.
Awesome. All right. Well, if you're watching this on playback, which I know several of y'all do, and you want to skip to a section, we got kind of 5 big areas, well 4, the 5th kind of a minor sections we're going to cover today. And here's the rundown order before we jump in. So number 1, we're going to talk about a lot of tournaments. This came to an end in the past week. So we're going to debrief and kind of go through Women's World Cup, everything with that, Copa America, and the Gold Cup. So we'll talk about that. We'll then talk about some upcoming tournaments. There's a lot of different things going on here, like the U.S. Open, the Leagues Cup, Libertadores in South America. So we'll talk about those, which all have their next round of games coming up next week and going forward. Next, we'll talk about the Dynamo and the MLS, which is reaching their mid-season point, and kind of give a breakdown of the terrible road trip that was the Dynamo's fate, and we'll talk about that. And then lastly, we're going to talk about, and hugely, I guess, is a big thing. That's why I really want both these guys on here, because I know they know a ton, more so than I could ever imagine, and that's with Liga MX. It's starting early, so if you're not aware, Liga MX is starting a week from tomorrow. A week from tomorrow, games are for real. The season is back, so if you're a fan of Mexican soccer, here we go, saddle up, here we go again. And then lastly, along with that, with Liga MX, and then we'll talk about in general, we'll talk about some of the major signings, some of the drama going around, not just in Mexico, but around the world. There's been a lot of interesting moves and a lot of potentially interesting moves on the books. So let's hop right in, boys, and talk about these tournaments and give us your thoughts. Let's go with number 1, the big one. It was in the news yesterday. They had their big parade in New York and everything. Let's start off giving y'all people your general thoughts on this year's Women's World Cup in USA, going for a record 4 Women's World Cup victories back-to-back. Richard, what was your kind of impressions? What's your general take on the tournament?
Well, I think this was the first time that I fully watched the entire thing. I was glad that it was broadcasted on both Telemundo and Fox, because I was able to see some matches that I would have not watched otherwise. I think 4 years after watching the final between the U.S. and Japan, and now this whole tournament from the start, I think there was more emotion brought in from the fans as well as from the players themselves, which big props to them for delivering an amazing and high quality tournament for us to watch. I think the tournament itself has like a 28-year history now, so that means this was the 7th tournament. And seeing a variety of teams give a surprise that, unlike their men counterparts, they might not be at the highest level, but on the female counterpart, they were able to deliver an amazing tournament where I thought some of the teams could have lost. I mean, the other thing that we've seen in this past couple of years has been the European dominance in the female football world. I feel like in the male side we have like the South Americas and the Europes always conquering the sport, but in this case Europe was the one who was conquering the sport as we neared the quarterfinals. But eventually America's team won, and big props to them, and I was really excited and happy for them winning the title.
I got a couple questions for y'all, but first, bro, what were your takeaways, your thoughts from another Women's World Cup in the books?
I think USA kind of picked up where they left off. They were pretty strong in the last World Cup. Obviously, a lot of the women that play on the national team, they're playing from season to season, so they obviously kept that chemistry. There was a lot of stuff going on. The European teams, yes, they introduced women's soccer back like into their culture. So a lot of the European teams, they came out strong because obviously they have teams like AC Milan and stuff like that. And then they go and play in the World Cup. It's what you expect. But I think USA was just more prepared, and they took the trophy home. There was a lot of controversy with a couple of celebrations, the VAR, and a lot of that. But, I mean, it's to be expected. It's a World Cup. But I think USA did pretty good. I'm glad that they won another World Cup, back-to-back champions. And I'm looking forward to maybe they can get 3 in a row. Who knows?
So I guess the couple questions I want to put towards y'all. The first one, performance one, and then I want to get to some of the more bigger issues that the World Cup has brought up, the Women's World Cup specifically. First of all, before we move on to that, so performance-wise, do you think the USA was genuinely challenged? I'm of the opinion, yes, they had some challenges. You know, they took out the other favorite, France. But really, I got to be honest with you, and I'll be the first one. I didn't watch every game. I wasn't totally engaged. This is my preference. But part of that was because I didn't feel like it was going to be a competition. Like, I was so confident going in. Maybe that's just being an arrogant American, but I'm just like, okay, women's soccer, that's the one thing we dominate. I had no doubt in my mind that they were going to win. So, do you think, I guess 2 parts of this, do you think they were really challenged at all in this tournament? And secondly, do you think that they will be challenged going forward? In other words, do you see these other countries catching up to, on the women's side where the USA is?
I think 3 things first. So as some of you may be seeing now, there's also a second camera being featured on the channel as well. So if y'all want to take another look, I've been practicing a couple graphics within the video side of things that we're hoping to integrate in the future. So if you want to take a look at that second camera, you're also able to do that. They're also streaming on Texas Soccer Live on the channel.
Give me the good side.
Yeah. But as we work through those technical things, we come back to kind of addressing the first thing, and that I think not because you're an arrogant American, but I would say you're developing kind of a sense of that being a champion. When you're a champion, when you're a team that has high quality, that really prepares themselves, the U.S. women's team has really prepared themselves and developed themselves over any other team. So it was expected for them to win. So
the way I feel about the American women's team is how maybe a Brazilian feels about the men's team. Was that what you're saying? Okay.
Exactly. You expect them to win. You expect them to go and be at the top. I think had the U.S. team lost, I think that would have been a surprise because nobody would have expected that.
True.
I can see in the future, maybe the next World Cup, there will be challenges for U.S. to face. Teams like England, Sweden, teams like that, maybe Germany. There will be competition in the future because every World Cup is 4 years. So you have time and you have friendlies and stuff like that. So you're going to build this chemistry up. You're going to get to build the team up. You're going to have new talent come in. It's a lot to work with. So I think next World Cup, USA is not going to be able to go in overconfident. It might be a challenge. Right now, the only challenge I've seen them having was France, which was the hosting country. But it's like what you expect. It's like for Champions League, like Real Madrid, you expect them to win because they're so good. That's what USA had. USA had this expectation of, we won last year, why can't we win it again? But now, the next World Cup, you're going to have challenges. You can't go in overconfident because it could only backfire on you.
Yeah.
And one thing as well to note, 2 things is, one, the age of these players playing in the women's national team. I mean, we're starting to see that they mostly retire like almost at their 40s. So maybe they still have one more World Cup left to them. But then what do they do after that? And then another thing is, I'm losing the train of thought, but in terms of the competition, the runners-up from 4 years ago, Japan, didn't even make it to Final Four.
Netherlands didn't even have a team like 2 World Cups ago. I mean, they didn't exist as a women's program.
But they were the European champions, which I think on paper they were the challenge. They were the real challenge. kind of, if we thought about it in logical ways, it was logical to have the European champions, because they have their own Champions League in the Europe League, both in their club level and their senior level.
Right.
One thing I want to touch base on, the amount of attention and the amount of fans that showed up to these games. It's like the men's World Cup. This World Cup got a lot of attention.
So that's you're getting to my last thing before we move on from the World Cup, and that is you have a platform. Everyone pays attention more to soccer in general when it's a World Cup, men or women's. So you have a platform now. The problem, what I've seen is the men's game. Every time these big, exciting World Cups come, the sport gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. The women's World Cup has not been able to capture that, and what I mean by that is, it's not translating back home to domestic leagues growing. The NWSL is struggling. Other domestic leagues don't exist in other countries. That's how you build up. We talked about this time and time again about building a soccer structure, a culture. Which leads me to the thing that's been getting a lot of buzz in the news, and that's them talking about pay. Equal pay and whatnot, and the disparity between men and women on the national level, and then heck, don't even get me started on the domestic level. I mean, I saw the range in salaries for the NWSL is something from like the max contract, it's like $50,000 a year down to like $16,000. As you're working another job. Do you guys think that you're ever going to see that hurdle overcome? I'm of the opinion. Maybe I'm being pessimistic. I'm just being real. I don't think the women's game is ever going to be on the exact same level as the men's. It's just me. I do think, on a positive note, I do think soccer has the biggest potential to do that or get the closest. Because they've tried it in basketball, right? They've tried it in some other sports. But soccer's the one, I guess, kind of equalizer. I think that it could get there. I still think it has a long way to go. And I'm not trying to sound, I don't know how people may take this negatively, but you pay for the product. I mean, what the men's game generates in terms of money and publicity and excitement. I know this did it for the World Cup, but it's going to be another 4 years. So I'm sorry. I think it's going to be another 4 years before we see this excitement over women's soccer again. Unfortunately, I wish it wasn't like that. I don't know. What are y'all's thoughts?
Yeah, it's going to take time on that end because it is a business. It is run as a business.
Yeah.
The sad thing for our leagues, and you mentioned the NWSL, it's exactly the same as the MLS. Those two leagues are not co-owned. They do not belong to the U.S. Soccer Federation.
Yep.
So the problem here that we don't have compared to the European teams is that the European teams are a counterpart to their male
Exactly.
counterpart teams. You have an FC Barcelona team. That's the name for both the male and the female teams.
That's a good point.
And it works the same way in all the other ligas. So in order to see that improvement, we're going to have to see a shift in how, especially in the U.S., NWSL and MLS kind of merge or kind of have a binding contract with the U.S. Soccer where you're feeding players. I think Mexico, to me, was a surprise to not actually be able to make it to the World Cup this year, just because they're the ones who actually do have a league with the Liga MX. They do have counterparts to the Melts teams. So I think Mexico is going to be one of the teams to watch out for 4 years because, as we know, and everywhere but the U.S., they over-promote their players. They over-promote the teams to commercials that you may not even think they might appear. So
yeah, it's this. Unfortunately, it's this chicken and the egg. Which one came first? Sort of dilemma here, because it's like, well, what do you need? You need to put money into this. Well, to put money into this, we need to have product on the field. We'll have a better product on the field. You need more money. You're going back and forth,
right.
And that's kind of the unfortunate dilemma. And I think that speaks to a broader picture about women's sports in general. But like I said, I agree with you. I think soccer has the biggest potential to break through. And like I said, I don't see it on that same level. Are we ever going to have the day where there's going to be a female Messi or a female Ronaldo, like someone who's globally represents the game like that? Right. As famous and great as Alex Morgan is, and Megan Rapinoe, like they're not that yet. And I'm like, are we ever going to have a woman? It's interesting. We can go back and forth on it, but any final thoughts on that before we move on? Because we got a lot to cover.
That's because it's two different cultures. I mean,
yeah.
The cultures that's lived for the men's team I mean, even for the U.S. men's team, the culture for that, I mean, they're trying to incorporate it into the women's, but in the men's, it's been around for so long, and they embrace it more, and they've expanded all over the place. I feel like they just take it more serious. Maybe, who knows? I mean, I think eventually it will get there to where they get the equal pay that they want, but they have a lot to, like, work towards, because it's not going to happen right away. It's not something that's going to happen after winning 2 World Cups in a row.
Yeah.
You have to work. You have to work towards it. But I mean, maybe it could happen. Who knows? But we have a lot. There's gonna be a lot of moves and a lot of training and stuff till the next World Cup. So let's see how U.S. embraces this win. They enjoy it, but then they have to get back to work, because you just can't sit around and wait for the next World Cup.
Yeah. All right, shifting gears, guys. Let's shift over to the men's game and look at 2 of the major tournaments that just ended on our side of the world. Number 1, let's look at Copa America, the South American championship. And we see host country Brazil get another Copa America victory, 3-1 over Peru. Kind of putting background leading up to that. Remember, prior to that, we had Brazil knocked off Argentina, and Peru knocked off Chile. To get to that, Argentina ended up getting the 3rd place victory. A lot of controversy in that, a lot of stuff like that. Before we get into, because I think I wanted to go a little, I do want to talk about the whole Messi thing. I think that's a dominant story here is Messi, and once again the inability to win and all the controversy that happened. First impressions, real quick, on just the tournament in general and how it played out. Surprises, not surprises, anything like that. Anything that stood out to y'all?
I think this tournament specifically, this one was BS overall. The refs, the VAR, all that, it was just BS. You want to incorporate VAR into big tournaments, you didn't use it on this one. Yeah. You used it only when it came to goals. I seen it, you took 2 goals away from Chile, which is BS. They should have won that game 5-1, 5-0.
Yeah.
And there's a lot going on, but I believe that it was set up for Brazil to win at home.
Yeah. They
were playing at home. It was hosted in Brazil. I believe that it was set up for them to win in Brazil, so Brazil could. They haven't gone to World Cup. The last World Cup, they got eliminated in Brazil, so they said, let's have them bring another championship. And they knew that Chile could have gone back-to-back.
That's true.
But they didn't want them to do it. Why? Because they're in Brazil. How you going to have Chile come to your home and take it away? I mean,
I just got to say real fast, I usually am the one, when I hear the people talking about, the refs, it's rigged. I'm one of those people that's like, shut up, it's the game, whatever happened, happened. I gotta say though, the more I watch, at least on the continent level, on CONMEBOL tournaments like this, and we'll get to CONCACAF too, the Gold Cup, on those levels with national teams playing, some of the stuff I'm starting to buy it. I'm sorry, it is getting so blatantly obvious. Yeah. The calls, the no calls, just getting a little bit ridiculous. So it's just insane. So specifically, I think Brazil did have an advantage. I think it should have been. I think Chile got robbed. Oh hell, let's just get straight into it. Was Argentina and Messi robbed?
I think so. Yes, they were robbed. They were robbed against Brazil, and there was a few other games that they didn't get a few calls, but the main game that they got robbed was Brazil. The fouls, penalties, no cards were given. It was just like, okay, you can show favor to Brazil because they're in Brazil, but you can't show that much favor to them. Like, what are you doing? Call it a fair game. The amount of fouls was just no. You just can't stop the game for a little shove. Brazil was selling it, and they knew they would get away with it because they're at home.
So I'll put this to Richard. Richard, do you think, you're looking at it, if you're putting yourself in a position like what Messi was in, you feel like you're being robbed, feel the refs are against you, do you have the right to speak out against that in the way that he did? Because he didn't hold back.
No, and I completely agree with his feelings and his thoughts about being robbed, because it did happen that way. Unfortunately, though, CONMEBOL sees it as an attack because he is a major player. They always need him as one of the faces. He's one of the faces of the CONMEBOL, whether he may have played in Argentina or not. But on another note,
and they ain't gonna suspend him.
Right.
He's with too much money. They ain't gonna suspend him.
And if they do suspend him, I feel like that would actually benefit Argentina because now they won't have to create a team around Messi, right?
True.
So the thing here is, and I was listening to like a full show from the Argentina side because they do criticize him a lot, but I think on this side they were taking his side because he was made the enemy. And as Argentinians, you may understand that their culture of soccer is like if you mess with one of them, you're messing with everybody.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So this time, the way the reporter was stating is that now Messi is being looked at like that. Like it's not a selfish move on his part to blatantly accuse the ref. It's against the Argentinian national team. But what merits did Argentina make to actually be a contender to win the Copa America? That's another thing, right?
Yeah.
Like, why are they depending so much on the play? Like, I don't agree on the call of the play because I think he should have been given the yellow card, not a red card.
Right.
But outside of that, we could have said like that could have been like their one glimpse of hope, and that's kind of what we're debating here, as opposed to debating like what does Argentina need to do to become the strength that they used to be, or the so-called.
Well, my only minor counter. I mean, he didn't do anything bad, but Messi, I didn't really say, and I agree completely with everything. But also, I'd say that let's not forget the fact that Messi wasn't the same force that he usually is. I mean, it was other Argentinians that were doing the goal scoring,
Right.
And so you could tell after the years of getting beat up like this, the frustration I think is it's a matter of time, and this was just one of those straws that broke the camel's back, and he was going to do that. Like I said, it's one of those things that it's going to go down. It's one of those, you see in other sports a lot, the guys that win everything, but then they can't get the ring, they can't get the championship, and it is what it is. I think he's got a couple shots left, but that's it. I agree with you. I think the other mistake that Argentina is making is like they need to sit down and do some soul searching as what they're looking at.
They need to build a team. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, their defense, Argentina's defense, it's a bunch of young guys. I'm sorry, but they look lost. One player that I cannot stand, and I don't know why they keep calling him, Acuna. Get rid of him, please. I would rather have Di Maria. Di Maria is not up there like he was before, but I would rather have Di Maria before Acuna. Acuna, it's like he doesn't know where he wants to play. He's running up and down the field, and it's like, stop. Stick to your position, because then you have Messi falling back. Then you have Messi playing forward.
Yeah.
And I'm tired of them blaming Messi like,
Right.
Messi needs to do this. What else do you want Messi to do? You want him to hop in the goal? He can't do that. So they need to build a team around Messi to where they don't just depend on Messi. Messi can also depend on them.
Yeah.
They depend on each other. But right now it's just Messi has the status of being seen as they want him to be the next Maradona, which I can understand why, but
Not only because he's also said it, Maradona has also said it, that he's his child. But
yeah, but I mean, look who Maradona played with, and at the era that he played in. It's different from now. I mean, you got teams like Chile and you got teams like Brazil. These guys, I mean, they're younger, they're faster.
Well, it's what I'm saying. And look at all South America. Look at CONMEBOL. I was talking about with the not for 2022, but for 2026, when the World Cup expands and the number of spaces. I think CONMEBOL gets like 6 spots. There's only like 10, 12 countries, federations. Yeah. So half them going. My point is they're going to get that many in there, 6 or 7, whatever it is, and there's still going to be good teams that don't make it to the World Cup. I mean, that's how good South America has become. Which I will just kind of use this little segue and come back to it. But I will say one positive note about this whole, how it wrapped up. I will say I'm very impressed with the trajectory that Peru is taking as a country, as a program. They had a damn good tournament. We saw them being the black horses in the World Cup and what they did mixing it up. So props to Peru getting into that final, because their players are starting to get picked by other clubs around the world, which is only going to elevate their game. When your players are playing in the top domestic leagues, They come back, it's gonna improve your national game.
And I like that you mentioned that because you wanted to segue to Rudy's comment.
Yeah, he said like why do we think Argentina doesn't call on the players like Marcos Rojo that plays for Man U? He's a defender. I think that's just Argentina trying to get homegrown players. I mean, I think they just want to bring out the young talent from Argentina that play for like Boca, River, stuff like that. I think what they want to do is let's pull them out and take them so if anything happens, we can say, oh, our talent, they came from our small clubs and they got us here. I think that's
it's the curse of too much talent. There is such things as having too much talent.
They do have a lot of
Think
talent.
about USA. Think about USA picking a basketball team. You know,
Team USA, right?
Think for the Olympics. How many good players are not on that team? You know what I'm saying? And so you got to be careful because that's also a curse. You got to get the right combo. You're always going to have good players. I mean, if you're on national, you're not bad. But it's getting the right combo, the right chemistry, the right mix. And I think, quite frankly, Argentina, I mean, putting all refs onto the side CONMEBOL, Argentina on a federation level has mismanaged some of their talent. And it's like if you have Michael Jordan, you have the Michael Jordan of your era in soccer, in Messi, but you're surrounding him with the wrong guys.
Right.
Michael Jordan didn't win a bunch of championships in Chicago without Dennis Rodmans, the Scottie Pippens, the Horace Grants, all these guys. You got to have those kind of guys that work with him well instead of just saying, like nowadays saying, okay, James Harden, go win a championship by yourself. Yeah, you got to get the right mix.
Right.
Also, they need a coach. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
but they switch coaches out like one World Cup, one Copa America. It's like find a coach. After this, you go and find a coach, and you build chemistry. So when it comes down to it, you can jump off and keep going.
Right.
And I think Scaloni was doing that through this summer. This was his first test as coach handling the team. So I think give him another year before the qualifications start. I think what is it? I think they also start next year or in 2 years from now.
It's usually 2 years out. So
it's starting January. Oh my gosh.
It'll start next summer.
Yeah. So by then, if Scaloni's not doing anything, you should definitely change him out. Don't be like Mexico. But before we get to that, right? I think what was surprising to me
is I don't know with the World Cup being later. I don't know if that affects. Because remember, they're playing this World Cup in November and December now.
Yeah.
I don't know if that pushes everything back. I'm not sure.
I think probably what will end up happening is the FIFA schedules are just going to change for the international teams, but in terms of leagues, I think they'll stay the same.
Yeah.
But we will check up on that once the time arrives.
What were you saying though? I'm sorry.
So in terms of leagues, though, I was surprised to see Liga MX players succeeding in the Copa America.
Yeah.
This is exactly what we want out of the Mexican talent, without getting too much into like the Mexican national team. But we saw that as a success for the Peruvian players.
Let's go right into it. No, I was just saying you see with the Peruvian players.
Colombians.
Yeah.
Argentinians. I think the Argentinians should have also given the shot. Not just propping my Marchesín here from Club America, but there's a lot of players playing in Liga MX who are Argentinians who may not be at like super high level, but they might be the right combo for these other players.
It's a two combination. Like, I think it's like you want to always develop your domestic league. You want to get that strong. That's a good core source to get talent from. But you want to get your nationals, your guys out there. So it's like, I was flipping around with the USA. It's like as much as you want to get the MLS stronger and better. That's right. But in the meantime, you need to be getting more guys. Christian Pulisic can't be the only guy playing on the team that plays over. Get more people in the Bundesliga. Get them prepared. And same thing with these other countries. They've gotten their players in other leagues, in Liga MX, in other places around the world. When are y'all tuning in again? Rudy, hey, thanks for tuning in. Sorry I can't stay for the whole show. You can watch this on playback. We usually do one show a month, usually. So we'll do another one in August, mid-August, once Liga MX is underway. But we average at least a show a month, and then we post our own stuff to the page. So appreciate you watching. So, check us out in August for episode 27.
Hi, Mom. Hi, Dad.
There's a lot to digest from it, and I think we'll keep looking at it. But because you said the magic word, you said Mexican soccer.
Mexico.
Let's talk about Mexico's national team. because our last cup that just finished was the Gold Cup. The fight that everybody wanted. And we talk about rigging and this and that and refs. But is anybody really surprised that we had Mexico versus USA in the final for Copa Oro?
I was surprised. I mean, not like shocked, but I was surprised just because I'm gonna mention it. There were surprise teams who really.
Okay, I'll give you
really
that.
Stood out from the tournament. Who may have done that like.
There was a few teams that stood out and gave a punch. Like,
right.
Yeah.
Haiti,
who
got robbed, in my opinion. I don't know.
I think so too. I didn't see the whole game, so I agree.
Yeah, that was a reverse, as I told him. That was a reverse Noeta penal. That was the Mexicans benefiting from a penalty call because that was not a penalty. And I want someone to try and tell me it was, because that was not a penalty. And Haiti was dogging them. And for them to get that far, I mean, come on. Yeah, it was just silly.
Again, it's money. You wanted the match that people always say, oh yeah, it's gonna be the U.S. Mexico. But even then, you saw all the people still sold out these stadiums, still went and cheered for their teams.
But would they have done that if it was Haiti versus Curaçao in the final
or Jamaica?
No. Or Jamaica? I mean, Jamaica. I doubt it.
Jamaica, maybe.
I just because, especially when you're the host country too, when the finals hosted in the USA in that stadium. Like I get what you're saying, but I just think there's a big element of just these two giants, which is why I'm kind of glad that when we're hosting the World Cup 2026, we're automatically in as host countries. I just want to see these other countries have a chance, because it's not that I feel bad for them or I pity them or something. It's just like you said, there's talent, and I don't think they're always getting a fair shake.
Right.
I just don't think they are.
And I think this tournament in Copa America should be one of the ones that expands to make it like a World Cup in a sense, where you do have those knockout stages. You don't go straight into like the quarterfinals. Like you need to give that breathing room to give other teams. I feel like the Caribbean teams are really developing. I don't know how or why.
Well, because they're getting their players out. They're getting their players to Europe. That's what I'm saying. They're getting those guys. Curaçao had at least 3 or 4 guys who play in Europe. Jamaica's getting the one guy they kept talking about. What's his name? I keep going blank now. But European player, Premier League. Wow. Played for West Ham. So, I don't know. I mean, so that's kind of my negative. I will say one positive. You guys give me what we'll say. I will say, compared to the Mexican team that we saw in the World Cup, I do see this Mexican team from that point. We can judge where they were at that point. But from that point to now, I do see it a step, maybe not a big step, but I see it as a step in the right direction in terms of the chemistry, the cohesiveness, and I do like just kind of how they're doing. Like I said, they were part of some of the most controversial games. It came down to several penalty shootouts. There were calls. But what I do like is previous Mexican teams, in my mind, got rattled by that or let it get to their head. Is that for the players? I'm not going to speak for the federation of that.
Right.
I feel like the players, the guys on the field, it was improvement in the right direction, cohesively. And younger guys for the first time getting some playing time.
Well, for my rant towards Mexico,
oh boy.
Yes, they have gotten better from the World Cup. Yes, I do agree. I don't agree with the coach. For some reason, I believe he's like a man-child. He doesn't know how to control himself. But they have gotten better. I'm glad that they stopped calling the same players from every year in every World Cup. They made some changes. I do agree. I'm not completely behind them yet. I'm getting there, but I'm not completely behind them yet. They haven't sold me on it. Yes, they won this, but they already had 7. This is number 8. Congrats to them, but they still have a lot to work on. They have some weak spots, but they look solid.
We get it that you're the big fish that dominates this little pond, but when you venture outside of CONCACAF, what can you do? That's the real challenge.
And that's going to be the challenge once the Fecha FIFA start coming in. Mexico's going to have to really use their money and go outside and venture out. Stop hosting matches that don't make sense, even though it is with their people. But I think Mexico needs a series of matches abroad like they did right before the World Cup.
Take on Europe,
what
take
I
on
did
South America.
see, and it's coming up. There's going to be a match in September. They're going to have, I believe, 6 matches, but they're playing CONMEBOL teams: Argentina, Brazil, Chile, Peru, Venezuela. They want to get into something like CONMEBOL. Here's your chance. You're going to play some teams that aren't pushovers like Haiti, Curacao, stuff like that. You want to play the big dogs, you're going to play them.
Yeah.
You play them and see how you do.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Joel.
No. Here's the thing. I want to hear Raul on this because I watched one of the games with him, and I know his feelings about this. How about the legend, the god? I know you worship him, Mr. Ochoa in the goal. Isn't he such a great and fabulous goalie and savior of the Mexican people? We should have shrines to him, like the Virgin of Guadalupe up here.
I'm sorry, but I think he is just garbage. These people only praise him because of one game that he had against Brazil, that he stopped everything. Before that,
Joel's watching. What do you think about that? Ochoa's trash. That's what you heard it from him.
Before that, I mean, what was he? Nobody praised him. Everybody praised him because he had curly hair. After that, he's a god. He stopped everything. They started photoshopping his face onto a Jesus candle.
Okay, I'm gonna stop you there, Raul, because he may not be at the top level like a.
Hold on, Chichadios. He wasn't even called up. Forget Chicharito.
He was having a
is
chicha
done.
baby.
He is done. He is done.
Having a chicha baby, But with Ochoa, I mean, I followed his career. He's one of the reasons why I started following Club America with him and Cuauhtemoc. But I think he's had a more shyer route towards Europe, but he's still there. He's still performing. He may not be performing in the best leagues, but every time he gets called up and the moments he needs to show up, he shows up. But again, there's other times where it seems like he's not even there. But that's the thing, because he needs to be given a shot at one of these also top clubs. And when he does show up, like the game with Brazil, like the games here in CONCACAF, he's shown up, and that's gonna add value to his name and to his quality, which will hopefully. Because he still has, I think he still may be able to play in the next World Cup. Maybe not, but if he does, hopefully he'll be playing for a better team. I mean,
he only has 3 more years. I see 3 more years or less. That's all I see.
He's at that point. He's at that point that Tim Howard was at going into Brazil, into that World Cup. You know what I'm saying? You can get 1 more or 2 more. You get 1 more big tournament maybe after that, but. I think he'll be good. I think he'll be good for the next one for Qatar. But I don't know about that. Real quick, just shift gears. Thoughts on USA? I mean, like I said, they were pretty dominant throughout. They were really impressive. Like I said, they put away Jamaica pretty handedly, leading them to in the semifinals. What's this team got to do? What's the next step? I mean, I feel like it's a very young team. You and I were talking that. There's still some old idiots who need to get out of there. I'm sorry. I'm not a fan of Michael Bradley. I'm not a fan of Josie Altidore. Get them off the team. I'm done with that. I was glad to see some young goalies and to see who emerges as the big keeper for the United States. Pulisic did his thing, but Pulisic, once again, we cannot be relying on just one guy. There was a few other shiny moments, a few other guys. McKenzie, who plays for him, and a few other young guys, but they're still raw. I'm like you. I'm not sold on the coach yet. So that's the Bayern game.
Oh, okay.
So I'm not sure. I don't know what y'all think about USA. Joel, real fast. I wish I could go. I want to go to the Bayern Real Madrid game. But if you want to give me a ticket, I'll go.
Mm-hmm. I probably won't be attending. I'm investing my money into Tigres, so. I would take Tigres over. I mean, I love Bayern and stuff, but I'm going to pass on that game.
Well, if they ask me to work it, I'll work it. I'm not paying for that game.
It's outrageous the price. It's scalp now. USA, y'all's thoughts, and then we can move on. We'll get on to some other stuff.
I actually think USA improved a lot.
Yeah.
They obviously depended on Pulisic too much. I guess it's like Argentina depending on Messi.
Right.
USA was depending on Pulisic because, I mean, Pulisic is playing in Europe. I mean, he's one of the the big players.
Yeah.
He did really good in this tournament. There's a few players that I would get rid of. That it's time to move on. You just have to let go of the national team and move forward. There's a few players on the bench that I wish they would have started because they have potential. They're able to play. But USA did make improvements. Coaching-wise, I'm in the middle. He did good, but then there was times where he was bad. But I think he needs a few more games to show if he is ready for this job or they need to find somebody.
I would say the same thing y'all said about Mexico and the opponents they play in these friendlies and in other games. I think that is critical for the United States building up to getting the they got to get their feet wet, so to speak, against some quality opponents before they get into those qualifying. I think they'll be fine. I think they will qualify for 2022. I mean, I think they'll qualify for Qatar. But if they're going to do anything in that tournament, because really the vision here is about 2026.
Right.
Yeah.
When it's in when the majority of the game, it's in your country. We're building a squad. A lot of these guys that are the young bucks, the 20, 21-year-olds, right? Whoever emerges, the leaders out of that group, they're going to be the 30, the 31, 32-year-olds, the guys that are like, this is it. Here we are, 2026. I'm not saying to overlook everything in front of you. If anything, you need to look closer. I mean, that's your end goal, but it is all what they do in 2026 when we're hosting that World Cup. It starts now, and it has to be a slow, methodical buildup. 2022 is part of that, but I think people need to just chill out if they think, okay, USA's back, this and that. It's a slow grind. It's a slow grind. Right. But I'm excited. There's all these young guys that are in their lower 20s. They're going to be around for the next decade. Some of them. I want to see who emerges and get the real cream of the crop out of there.
Because you're going to have obsolete players who are currently playing but weren't called up to make it to the Gold Cup squad. And then you're also going to be having 14, 16-year-olds right now. So if you know a 14 or 16-year-old right now and he's playing or he's under the U.S. Soccer Foundation, he may be the next star. He may be the next young player who emerges in that World Cup.
And I will say this, I have seen the MLS and the U.S. Soccer Federation, finally, I've seen this past year, really since the World Cup, putting more money and effort and publicity into the academy systems, the developmental systems. I've seen all the homegrown players have been getting recognized more, the minor clubs and the clubs associated with it. Finally, we're seeing the grassroots, the bottom, and there's money being spent. Right. And you're seeing a quality product finally.
Right.
I think if Pulisic would have had another star forward with him, it would have been completely different. I feel like U.S. would have walked away with that trophy, and that's what I feel like they need to do. They need to grow some of these younger players. He have 4 more years. Grow him into another Pulisic, and if he gets there and Pulisic has somebody to help him, USA is going to be in the next World Cup. They will dominate their bracket. I mean,
no doubt.
Yeah, I mean that's what they need. They need to work on their midfield a little bit. Like, okay, I'm sorry, get rid of Bradley. He's done. The guy's been around for the longest already. You need to grow. You need to train somebody to be a younger Bradley. He has skills, but he doesn't play the same like he did before. So what you need to do is take a player or find a player that already has some of that talent, push him towards it, and you have a set team.
I look at Josie Altidore and Michael Bradley as part of the Dempsey Donovan era. It's over.
Right. Yeah.
Let's move on. I will say this last thing I'll say. If you guys have any last comments, because I know we're a little behind, but one thing I was telling him, what the U.S. is missing. I like Pulisic and whatnot, but let me use a metaphor for you. When I look at USA, I see a prep school rich boy team. When I look at a squad like Chile, let's say, who's been successful, I see it's like a group of guys from the hood. Heck, they look like gang members because they're tatted from the head to the toe, even on their face, got teardrops. Look like they've seen some life.
Yeah.
They're badasses. We don't. If USA had one of those guys, Tim Howard was kind of like that, Dempsey kind of like that. I want to get back to, USC used to be like that in the 90s. We had kind of that attitude.
They look like pushovers.
Which really pushed them up, like in the 94 when they hosted the World Cup, really pushed them to a whole nother level. I've been looking at videos they were close. They were one of the top teams during that World Cup.
So take advantage of these young talents coming up in the academy systems, but get some badasses, man. I'm thinking about like the movie, like, you know, Major League, man. You know, like coming in like, you know, the freaking Terminator type guy, like coming in, someone who's gonna go on the field and you'll be like, oh shit, I don't want to mess with this guy.
Remember that guy?
Yeah, don't go tattoo your face either. But
Yeah,
I mean,
don't look like an MS-13 gang member.
don't
like
push
Chile
it. But I
national
mean,
team,
come
you know what I
out
mean?
and like show like
Someone who won't afraid to mix it up.
yeah.
Jermaine Jones, when he scored that awesome goal at the World Cup.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Some bravado. There's no
Yeah.
swagger, bravado, whatever you want to call it. You know, just being a badass. I mean, there's just none of that. And then other teams have. You got to have at least one or two. I'm not saying change whole culture, but you got to have a couple of enforcers.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's nobody that I'm sorry. If I'm a CONMEBOL team or a UEFA team right now and I'm matching against USA, there's no one that I'm scared. A team that I like to, I think a lot of, Belgium. I like saw Belgium World Cup. They have a couple guys like that.
Lukaku,
It's like
Hazard.
you don't screw with, you know, and you know,
Joel,
I see that.
no, none of us are going to the game. You're going by yourself because you're lonely. Second comment from my friend Jose K. Chueco. Yeah, I did hear that they had this cup going on, but I didn't know if he had made it to the roster for the national team. So, but I mean, hey, that's nice to hear that somebody that was younger talent actually played in this cup and then they advanced.
Yeah, that's good.
So I'll just add one more comment. You may agree with it or not, but I think the U.S. was not at the same level as Mexico.
No,
And-
I
and-
agree.
And Mexico was probably, how we mentioned, like it was predictable that the U.S. women won the tournament, the World Cup. It was predictable that Brazil was gonna win the Copa America, just like Mexico was predictable winning the Gold Cup. In the fashion and way that they did it, may not have been the prettiest, but we can probably see that the U.S. has a better option because they are forming a younger squad. I think they're looking at an 8-year plan, and I think all three of us agree. I already heard y'all say it, but yeah, kick these guys out. You don't need any of the old players because they didn't help you win a World Cup before.
No.
So how are they gonna do it now?
The biggest challenge, and I agree with what Joel just commented, is that with an individual, but that is a general point. Your next challenge is you get that talent you're developing at the youth level, the academy level. Now the trick is retaining that talent, and it goes with what you're saying. You got to make space for them. Kick out these people who've already tried it, and make space for them, because they're going to get snatched up club-wise by European clubs, which could be a good thing in some cases. But if you allow it to get out of control, and we just become a farm system for the rest of the world, you know, you got to get those guys that you know they're going to get their experience, but come back. You got to create more opportunities. I want to see more young Americans play overseas.
Well, it's like Pulisic. I mean, you seen
Yeah.
Pulisic play here. He left and then he came back, and it's like, whoa, like where did he learn all
It's
this?
a balance.
I mean,
You want some of those guys in those leagues. You want to try and retain some and keep pumping up your domestic league, because that's just going to, you know, as much as we can talk about, like in Mexico, for example, they got guys that play over in Europe and other places, but there's still a core group of those guys that play in Liga MX,
Yeah.
right?
And that core group, that's what I was trying to get to. Even Mexico, without having most of the European players, they were still able to win the Gold Cup with their local talent, which is good. It's good calling for the product. It's good because now we get to see
it goes to show that
MLS and Liga MX teams.
Yeah.
When you put your homegrown talent in a competitive space, you put them on the field, they're gonna show up.
Yeah.
yeah.
All right, guys. I know there's a lot to talk about there, but I want to go through real quick. This will be a quick section on just some upcoming tournaments, and kind of get y'all's thoughts on who remains, and we'll do a quick little rapid rounds, rapid fire of tournaments here. As we all know, the Dynamo crashed out of the U.S. Open Cup and are not playing that, but the U.S. Open does continue. Actually, they were playing yesterday, and I need to pull up results of that because I need to update that to make sure I'm giving y'all the most up-to-date stuff.
Before we advance,
Yep.
Pancho Villa's Army, you are a joke. I just want to put that out there. Pancho Villa's Army, it's this group that they decided to cheer on Mexico. You are a joke. Shout out to the Outlaws. They've been around for a while, but Pancho Villa's Army, you are a joke. Yeah, disappear, please. All right, back to our regular scheduled show.
All right.
Down.
I will say this. Okay, so update. U.S. Open Cup. The quarterfinals took place yesterday.
Yes.
And so I have updates from this. Atlanta. So here's our 4 remaining teams advancing the U.S. Open Cup. Unfortunately, none of our friends from the Division II survived. Atlanta United, no surprise, beat St. Louis FC 2-0. Minnesota United, who knocked out the Dynamo, they had been on a roll. And I know it was just against New Mexico United, but they blasted them 6-1. Minnesota's a team that only second year of existence is making some moves. Orlando and NYFC went to penalties, and Orlando advanced on penalties 5-4. And Portland knocked off LAFC 1-0 to advance. So we have Portland, Orlando City, Atlanta, and Minnesota United. Let me check. I don't know if it's been announced yet. Yep, it has. Semifinals. Orlando and Atlanta, and Minnesota and Portland.
Wow.
Which I'm intrigued by that game a lot.
Portland are runners up from last year, right?
Yes.
Yes. I actually see, for some reason, I have this feeling that Minnesota is going to be like an Atlanta team. They're brought in and they dominate. They're going to dominate. They haven't dominated as fast, but they're up there. They're going to give challenges to teams.
The one-season turnaround, I think it's pretty damn fast. I mean,
they've been able to form a squad that's very cohesive. They brought in, the only player that I know who plays there is Darwin Quintero, who used to play for Club America, right? Yeah. But on top of him, there are other players who made this team like a force to be reckoned with. Like
I'm not familiar, but Angelo Rodriguez had a hat trick against New Mexico. He had 3 goals. Darwin Quintero had a goal. And I don't know, Miguel Ibarra had a goal. I don't know, and Jan Gregus, I guess, had a goal as well. So, I mean, there's other guys on there.
Yeah, and I think we know the answer to this, but like, why is Minnesota doing so well?
They're investing
when
their money
they're not
in the
even.
right
They're not a. I don't know them as a soccer city or a soccer town, but
Did it first of all, brand new, beautiful stadium that been hosting a lot of stuff lately. Second thing, with that new stadium, and I can say this, I know Dynamo fans will be like, oh, yeah, we need that too. We did have that at one point. Their fan group is big, it's loyal, it's loud. I mean, they take up a whole side of that stadium, and it's a different. They have in a short amount of time developed a strong soccer culture, and I believe Minnesota before it came on was a whatever the second division
USL.
Yeah, I think it was a USL team. So it's just like that's why I'm excited that Nashville's coming on next year. I'm excited Cincinnati, who came on this year.
Man.
You watch that Cincinnati Dynamo game, which we'll get to that, which is a mess. Even though they suck, their stadium's full. They were playing the Dynamo, and they were in last place in the East. And I was watching on TV. Their stadium, a little small stadium, is full, and they start from the ground up. I think it's a lot different when you're starting an expansion team just like that versus a team that's been they've been playing.
And Dynamo was an expansion team when it started, but it wasn't. I don't think it's been able to capture.
And it wasn't
the
in the same city. You know what I'm saying? The same city. It'd be one thing if if we had a team like, let's say that we took another city's team, and it's different. We had that excitement at first, and then winning the 2 cups, 06 and 07. But we definitely don't. I mean, Minnesota right now. Now, here's the trick: can they keep it? Same question I have for Atlanta. Is Atlanta going to have the same hardcore fans a decade from now?
Right.
I think they can, and they should. But we'll see the same thing.
Stadium to fill, right?
I want to see this. I'm going Atlanta beating Orlando, Minnesota beats Portland. I want to see these 2 teams. Many would argue the future of the MLS right now.
Right.
Yeah.
I want to see those 2 teams.
These 2 teams are going to be the ones that are going to be facing next year's expansion teams.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right. So hopefully.
I mean, it's interesting. I mean, a team like Portland. I mean, you expect to see up there. Atlanta expansion team came in. They dominated. They won last year, I believe.
Yeah,
last season's cup. So I mean, it's what you expected. They were due up for it. But it's like these expansion teams. I don't know what's going on. Every expansion team that has come on, they have people behind them. They're big. Look at LAFC.
Yeah.
Well, obviously LAFC
It's
absorbed.
different because they
Yeah.
also had a fan base that made the team.
Some of them were
right?
Chivas USA and all this other stuff. But I mean, look at them. They get a stadium. It's like
They also had
The
owners
yellow
who
wall.
threw a lot of money.
yeah. I mean, it's like okay, you have the yellow wall in Dortmund. In LAFC, they're filled. I mean, they're bringing in cultures and stuff that build something bigger. But I feel like obviously Minnesota's not gonna be like that because Minnesota is super far away and nobody lives
Super
up
cold.
there. But teams like LAFC,
Joe.
teams like Tennessee, you're gonna have the Austin Bold come up. I mean,
They're in the pipeline too, right?
Yeah.
You know, we saw them in the U.S. Open. You play the Dynamo. You know, Austin's gonna have, you know, and especially they're expanding now to places that don't necessarily have a lot of Minnesota. I get it. Man, they have, you know,
They're Twin Cities.
There's the Vikings and there's you know there's the Timberwolves. There's the Twins. They got all the other major sports, but you're seeing places like Cincinnati, Nashville, you know, places that don't have a bunch of other teams necessarily. And I think it's interesting. I do like how they're spreading out like that.
I do agree with you. Seattle's been around for a while already, but yeah, they have a solid fan base. I mean, they managed to fill up a decent part of the Seahawks stadium, and for you to fill up a football stadium, obviously, it's pretty good. But see, I mean, a team like Seattle, they've inverted money into players, and I'm pretty sure they give back to their fans and stuff. So I mean, yeah, Seattle's one of those big teams. Although they have fallen. Seattle's not one of those big teams that you normally see anymore. It's like Seattle and Atlanta switch roles. It's like Atlanta came in and they took the role of Seattle, which
Yeah.
I mean, it's to be expected.
But you're still seeing that team. I mean, the soccer in the Northwest hasn't. I mean, it's still super strong between them and Portland. The West Coast right now is super strong. Galaxy, LAFC. Heck, even crappy San Jose, who all of a sudden has come alive
Right.
in the MLS. Even they have a fan base. They got E40 out there, you know, hanging out with San Jose. So, you know,
Who this is?
I don't know.
Probably somebody with Richard Ewing.
So yeah, we'll come back to MLS and talk in a second when I talk about the Dynamo. But one other cup coming up on the 23rd and 24th this month. We finally start the round of 16 in South America. Libertadores takes forever. It's the longest tournament forever. Raul and I talked about this on episode 25. We went through and did our predictions on it, but I thought with Richard here, we can do a real quick rapid fire. Just pick your team. You don't have to give a long reason, but the Brights are the first leg. These are our matchups for the round of 16. I'm gonna say the matchup. You give me a team. If you want to elaborate, you can, but just give me. Let's go just rapid fire to these, and then we'll jump to the Leagues Cup, which I know we want to talk about and get to the Dynamo.
Yes, we do.
River Plate playing Cruzeiro. I take River Plate.
River Plate.
All right, 3 for 3. Godoy Cruz versus Palmeiras.
I'm taking Palmeiras.
Godoy Cruz.
And I'll take Palmeiras. All right, 2-1 on that. LDU Quito versus Olympia.
Olympia.
Olympia. That's an easy one. San Lorenzo versus Cerro Porteño.
San Lorenzo.
San Lorenzo.
Yeah.
And they've been pretty strong lately.
Yeah.
Another interesting one here. Nacional versus Internacional.
Ooh.
And you struggled on this one
yeah,
last time.
Yeah, this is
you
a
got-
big
well,
one.
Internacional is the one from Uruguay, right? Or
Yes.
Yeah, I believe so. Nacional is from Brazil, I believe.
or the other way around.
I think Internacional is from Brazil,
And Nacional is from
Uruguay.
But
But I would go with
I'm gonna go with the Uruguayan, which I think is the Nacional, the blue and red. I think.
I think Internacional is from Brazil.
Okay.
Internacional is from Brazil because I remember that
Internacional.
logo. Yeah, so I'm going with Internacional.
No,
we played him.
Nacional is Uruguay.
Okay.
Yeah, and
So
Internacional is
I'm
Brazil.
going with Nacional. I know the other people.
And Internacional is Brazilian.
I'm
Okay.
going with Internacional. Shout out my boy Rafael Solis. But yeah, I'm going with them.
I'll go with the Internacional.
Alright,
Emelec versus Flamengo.
Flamingo. I'm going with Flamingo.
I haven't heard of the other teams. Flamengo.
Yeah.
Yes. Emelec.
Emelec's been up there before. Emelec is
We played Emelec once. They're pretty solid team.
But they're not good enough to beat Flamengo.
Yeah, no mistake. I just believe that. I mean, Flamengo's always been one of those teams, man. I
Right,
mean,
historical. Like you've heard of that.
Yeah,
before.
that's true. I'll go with Flamengo as well. I don't know where this one's from. Atletico PR versus Boca Juniors. I'm going Boca.
I'm going Boca.
Yeah, Boca.
And then finally, Libertad versus Gremio.
Oh, Gremio.
I'm going Gremio. Yeah, Gremio.
All right, we shall see. 23rd, 24th, those games will kick off, and then that's only leg one. They are doing legs. No, that's not a single elimination. All right, last upcoming tournament, and this will help us transition into Dynamo talk, and that is the Leagues Cup. This tournament that's been kind of given life again from years ago, pitting several Liga MX teams versus several MLS teams. We don't know how. Don't ask, because if you know, you're watching, you know how the hell these teams are picked. Great. We have no freaking clue. Okay, all we know is that it's a straight single elimination, single bracket on each side. There's no reseeding, any of that. So on one side of the bracket, you have the Chicago Fire taking on Cruz Azul, and you have LA Galaxy taking on Tijuana. On the other side of the bracket, you have Dynamo, your Houston Dynamo, taking on Club America here in Houston, and Real Salt Lake taking on Tigres. So that's what we got going on here now. Winner, and it stays on the same side. So winner of Dynamo Club America will play the winner of Salt Lake and Tigres, and vice versa with the other two matches. I think we all agree talking about this. This is clearly, I mean, it's going to make some money. It's publicity. My big question before we do a quick pick on who's going to win on this stuff, do you think that this tournament, to what level can this grow to? Because my argument is we're the two biggest leagues, MLS, Liga MX, in North America, without a doubt, right?
Right.
This bond has to be grown. I don't think Liga MX needs the MLS as much as the MLS needs Liga MX.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think MLS is realizing that, which is why I think it was really their idea to this tournament. And I don't think it's not a surprise to me that they picked four of the biggest teams and geographically representing almost all of Mexico.
Right.
I mean, you got regionally, you got the North, you got the South, you got the capital, you got the West. So I think it's very smart by MLS to invite this, what this cup really means. I would like for this thing to grow to where it actually means something.
Yeah.
Right.
Like it's our Libertadores, like on a much bigger level.
Treco, it's only one game knockout. It's
Single
not
game.
first leg, second leg. It's only one game. You lose the first game, you're out. So whoever wins advances.
I mean, you're basically paying. You win 3 games in a row, you win it all, because you win your first game, you're gonna go straight to semis, final. That's it.
Unless they made some rules for the final, but there's really no information on that yet. But what we do know is one game. That's it. There's no first leg, second leg.
And it's quick. It's gonna be over like 3 or 4 weeks. It's gonna be like a month at tops. So it's real quick because both MLS and Liga MX have seasons going on, obviously. So it'll be quick.
I do know the final for this though would be in September.
Excuse me, the 18th. Yeah, on September 18th. And I don't know if I wrote the semis down, but yeah, September 18th. They're gonna start up maybe once a month because they want to not overwork these clubs, during the regular season.
But I mean,
so what else? What else? I mean, do you think there's potential this can happen? Can we get
a big tournament?
Eventually a tournament that's not, you're never going to be Libertadores, obviously, but something of that nature that's bigger?
Who are the Dallas Sidekicks?
Yes. Tony is like I don't know who are the Dallas Sidekicks. I don't know.
You tell us.
You tell us about the Dallas Sidekicks.
We need
Are
you
you
on the
cheering
show.
for them? Or are you asking
Unless you
about
formed a team, I don't know who the hell they are. So.
No, but them bringing this tournament in, yeah, it happened like 2006, 2005, and then it disappeared for whatever reason. For them to bring it back, I think it was more of MLS trying to build like a friendship between each other.
Yeah.
And obviously, MLS wants to grow to where Liga MX is, because the players that Liga MX gets, they're from Europe, Argentina. I feel like that's what Dynamo and MLS want to get on. So I think it was smart of them. Both teams are going to make money. Whoever's playing this small tournament, they're going to make money, and then there's prize money in the end. So, I mean, it's smart, and I can see why they did it. But, I mean, it's going to happen real fast. I do know this. Tigres did win this in 2006, I believe. But it was a smart move by them. Obviously, Dynamo, sadly, they got out of the U.S. Open Cup, so they don't have much. It would be different if they had to worry about this, their season, and then having another small tournament. Now they can try and win this. Obviously, the opponents is 4 Mexican teams, 4 MLS teams. It's going to be kind of difficult. And, I mean, Dynamo have to open up against America, and they're going to be 1 game into their season. So
Yeah.
it's going to be difficult, but I can actually see Dynamo taking advantage of it. I mean,
And I have to apologize to my cousin live here. I'm sorry, Tony. I wasn't aware of the giants that the Dallas Sidekicks are in the Major Arena Soccer League. I did not understand that arena soccer was so big in North Texas. My apologies.
Yeah.
I will buy my Sidekick gear as soon as I
Get the
can.
Girl Scouts sponsoring them.
Yeah. Sponsored by the Girl Scouts. That's great.
Okay. But I guess touching base back on the Leagues Cup. I think.
Sorry, go ahead.
No worries. I'm just gonna call it and say that all the Liga MX teams are gonna win this.
Oh my God!
All of them are gonna win their matches and they're gonna face each other.
So
That's how much hope I don't have on these teams. I mean, the only team who's actually doing pretty good in the season for the MLS is LA Galaxy.
And you think Tijuana is just going to come in and it's in LA?
And this is the thing: Tijuana and LA Galaxy are like
next door neighbors.
Next door neighbors.
Yeah,
they're
but-
this is probably like a rivalry that may be expanding for years to come. Who knows? Because Tijuana's always been dubbed like the American like team in the Liga MX because of their being close to San Diego. Then them always having like American players playing with them.
I swear if on this side, if it ends up being Dynamo and Real Salt Lake, you two are going to have to eat so much crow. I swear to God. Like, this is going to be crazy. So, all right, look, I don't disagree with you completely. The one when I saw this first come out, my one pick that I could see going forward was the Galaxy. I'm not convinced of Tijuana. I never have been. I hate to say this, even as a homer, even as someone who loves the Dynamo, even if Club America comes with their bench, I don't get me wrong, I'm going to be there, and I'm going to be laughing at Club America fans, and I swear to God, if America opens up their season by losing to Rayados in Azteca, I'm not going to show up in Dynamo gear. I'm going to show up straight up with that flag wrapped around me and just laughing at every America fan I can. I got to take my opportunity to troll. But, I mean, I will be ecstatic.
I mean, that's the best thing that can happen to the Dynamo because, like Raul said,
It's true.
right?
Well,
It's
not. It's not, though.
Look, at the time when the tournament was announced, they did have to worry. Even Wilmer said they're not gonna play with their star players if they have Open Cup because their main focus was Open Cup.
Well,
but now that that's gone,
thank you.
it's open field for them.
But see, here's the ultimate thing for me. We say that, and it'd be huge, right? Oh, they beat Club America. Who are we playing next? Oh, it's a rematch of the CONCACAF champions, Tigres.
Right.
It's a great opportunity, but like the problem is, let's just go a bigger thing. It gotta go to the Dynamo here. Is the Houston sports fan? We have the attention fan, and I'm saying this, I'm including myself. We have the attention span of like a gnat. I mean, we're just filling around.
Yeah, if you're wondering what a Houston fan looks like.
I mean, it's like we're terrible. I'm sorry. I critique my city and our fans so bad because we are so fair weather with our own teams, and like they'll get hyped and then go to game, and then the next game nobody. The second they lose, forget about them. Let's move on to someone else. I don't know. If it's because we're spoiled because we're inundated with so many different things that we can cheer for, but I mean, okay, let's say hypothetically the Dynamo go through and win. Oh, they blow out America. They kill Tigres. They go on and they take out whoever comes from the other side, the Galaxy or whoever, and they win that Leagues Cup. The sad thing is, and this is, I mean, me being straight up pessimistic, I'm sorry, I don't think it's going to matter a damn to your average Joe Houston sports fan.
Because they already have to their belt. I'm sorry to cut you off. They already have to their belt 2 MLS Cups, the U.S. Open Cup, but they won that. And the attendance, you were there for the first game. You were there for the second game as well.
Been there every game, and it hasn't gone up.
there's prize money that comes at the end of this, but what is Dynamo going to do with that prize money?
Exactly. We don't have owners who spend the money. They're being a bunch of greedy.
You get
choice words.
$1 million. What would you do with that? Dynamo, I'm sorry, but they haven't inverted money to where it's going to bring them in more money. I don't see them doing that with $1 million extra cash in their pocket. I mean, could they do something with it? Yes, but will they? I don't see it happening. No.
Who are you gonna invest it with? I mean, I feel like there's so much talk about Mauro being interested from other teams. Cruz Azul being one of the teams who is also in this League's Cup.
Yeah.
What if Mauro does end up shocking and scores like a hat trick against America?
Yeah.
Right? This stock's gonna go so
because I have no confidence in our ownership protecting our guys. I feel like we have the type of ownership right now that will sell to the highest bidder. You're exactly right. He gets a hat trick. Oh, here you go, Cruz Azul. That'll cost an extra whatever. And because Cruz Azul's not stupid and they're willing to spend money and they spend money like crazy, they'll spend the money.
Right.
You know, they'll spend the money, and then when we get that money, well, the logical thing is, okay, flip Motto for something bigger. Go get some big. We ain't gonna do that. I mean, I'm one of those examples to the point that I'll believe it when I see it. I mean, I haven't lost faith in the Dynamo, but I think that the squad of the field is doing their best. I do think there needs to be some. We'll talk about coaching here, but at that ownership level, until I see them actually make some moves. I mean, Dynamo fans were begging for the signing that came out today. You know, about Bizama.
All the memes.
Everyone was begging, like, just announce somebody. And then when we got word that it was, you know, Jose Bizama, you know, oh, we have a Chilean defender. We need help. Let's go. And it's like, we shouldn't have to be like that. We shouldn't have to be begging. And so, look, am I excited? It's rare to be in a... This isn't just an exposition. It's not just a friendly. It actually means something. It's a part of a tournament, and maybe not a big tournament. So am I excited to see the Dynamo play Club America here in Houston? Will I be there? Yes. Will I think it's awesome if they win? Yes. But my next question for the Dynamo is, now what? What do you do with those wins? What did you do with the U.S. Open Cup win? I haven't seen anything yet. You know,
matter of fact, they're knocked out. They're not even defending the cup.
Well, or even taking right in that wave. You know, it's like, what are you going to do with it? So, you know, that's my big thing going forward. Let's get into that. I mean, I think we all agree on that. By the way, if you want to go check that out, it's July 24th. It's a Wednesday evening out at UVA.
I'm sure tickets are still selling. So
and they are going fast. So all those America fans, they're all showing up. And once again, I would prefer, and I saw this in CONCACAF Champions, I would prefer not to be in my home stadium and be one of 15%, when the other 85% were Tigres fans, were the Mexican team's fans. I've been there at games with America too, and they come out, and I'm right now, I'm confident I'm gonna be sitting there, and 75% or more of that stadium here in Houston, Texas, is going to be Club America. So like, come on, I mean, these guys, Dynamo are practically giving away tickets right now. So just come out. It's summertime. You know, it's a good game. You don't see this type of a matchup that often. Yeah, I think you should go see it.
And take advantage. I mean, right now the Dynamo also has like a 7-1-3 series, which means you get to $7 tickets, $1 hot dogs, and $3 drinks. So they have the Houston Dash.
And it's frustrating that they're still not filling the stadium with those deals.
Right.
I mean,
there's going to be, I think, a 9-11 match for the Dynamo, which I think is going to be their last one.
They have gotten bigger, though. With the fans that they bring in for those deals, there are fans that show up that you don't expect, but they show up.
Yeah. I will say this, though, and we'll talk about more on our show in August. I do have a pair of tickets I can't use, or don't think I'm going to use yet, for September 11th against Minnesota United. So if you want to check out Minnesota, we might be doing a giveaway. I did it last year.
It's part of the 7-1-3 series. So as well, if you don't want the free tickets, buy $7 tickets.
Yeah.
Van a estar a $7 los boletos para el Dynamo, el partido el 11 de septiembre. Como Sean dijo, va a ser contra el Minnesota United aquí en Houston.
Yeah.
They need to win.
They
really do.
Yeah, they need to win. And like I said, not just win, but then do something with that. Use that wave to get more players. Use the money to get more players. Keep building up you got to keep building. I think they get this fantasy that is just going to happen for them. It just doesn't. Going on with that.
The good thing, at least some good news out of this whole thing is that now they only need to focus on gaining back traction for the rest of the season because they're still in contention to qualify for the playoffs.
Yeah. No doubt on that. I will say this though, I don't want to spend forever on the Dynamo because it's the same old story, unfortunately. They went on a road trip, 3 road games, 0 points. Lost to Portland 0-4, San Jose 0-2, New England they lost there. They came back, they won at home, beat the Red Bulls, who are a playoff team in the East, 4-0. And then they go on the road and lose 2-3 to the last place team in FC Cincinnati. Another year, same story. Dynamo tout that, we're undefeated in MLS play at home. Okay, buddies. Now you're putting that all on the line because you can't win on the road. You're relying on that. You got LAFC coming in tomorrow night, the number 1 team. And then you got Seattle at the end of the month at home. Yeah, it doesn't get easy in between. You got some couple hard games. I think one on the road at Galaxy on the road and something else. So it's like, what do you guys, put your money where your mouth is. Like, you can't keep doing this. I don't know what the hell is, and I don't want to waste any more of our time because we've talked too much about this on the show as to why can't you win on the road? I don't know. Call it lineups and coaching. Call it attitude. I saw them come alive the last 2 minutes. I watched the end of the FC Cincinnati game. They were down 0-3. They almost came back. But it took them getting this penalty and then this other crazy play.
An own goal.
Where's the motivation? I just don't get it.
So the road games, Atlanta, Toronto.
Yeah, Atlanta, Toronto.
And then they come back to play against America, and then they play at Seattle.
Yeah, so a brutal into the in going to the summer in July. So I hope you guys can keep one of these home games because that's what's going to keep you in this playoff. Because as Richard said, you are in playoff contention, but we're sitting in that 7th spot, and it's a bunched up group. Real Salt Lake is only a point behind us. San Jose is a point in front of us. And there's a whole bunch of teams keep going that are right there. So I don't know what else to say. I know you have your thoughts on Wilmer and be a continued issue with. I'm starting. At first, I was not with Raul on this, but I do have some issues with Wilmer and the lineups he's been putting on the field for some of these games. I just don't agree with him. There's no consistency. The lineup I saw against the New York Red Bulls, which coincidentally we won 4-0, was a lineup that I envisioned that he should have had every single game.
Right.
But that's only like the second or third time all season that exact 11 have played together. Why? If they're winning, why do you keep effing around with it? I just don't get it.
He thinks he's going to find something better. Better is right in front of your face. You're winning games with better, but you want to experiment. Stop. That's why.
He fell with Mexico last year.
Yeah, you want to take advantage of it. I feel like he feels that they're going to study his lineup and they're going to catch on to it. But that's when you start switching out one player. You don't start switching out 3 or 4 players and putting in new players. Like, no, keep it, but also bring in your bench, sub out a few players that are going to switch things up. Don't switch up your whole lineup every game. I mean, what else do you expect? That's how you're going to get taken down. I mean,
yeah.
But I mean,
for time's sake, I want to get to the last big topic, and where I'm relying on you guys here a lot more. Liga MX starts next Friday, and so here we go, ready or not. What I'd like to do is kind of get y'all's general thoughts. People were curious; they didn't want to go through. If you're curious who you're playing week 1, whatever team you go for. Puebla is going to start playing against Tijuana. Atlas is playing newly promoted, or I guess bought Juarez, who, remember, Lobos, who no longer exists. Juarez bought those rights. Pachuca is playing León to start off. The promoted team, we now have 19 teams for the first time. And I know there's goals of going to 20.
And what does that mean, Sean?
You tell me what that means, Richard.
So that means that a team every week is going to sit out a match. So
which means Veracruz gets to chill on their butts in week 1 because they now have a bye week.
Right.
Basically, it's what you have as a bye week.
That's what you call it in English.
Yeah. Atletico San Luis, and I say the word Atletico on purpose because they are affiliated with Atletico Madrid, so I think that's interesting. It will start off against Pumas. Club America will start out at home against Monterrey, so that'll be a big week 1 matchup to watch. Tigres is going to start off at home against Monarcas. Necaxa will start at home against Cruz Azul. Toluca will start off at home against Querétaro. And Santos will start off at home against Chivas. So some interesting matchups in week one. One thing that I'll point out to you, and I just wrote out the look at the first 3 weeks. Obviously, that Coy Medica Monterrey game stands out to me, not just because I go for Raros, but I think it's two of the biggest names going at it. I'm really interested to see how San Luis does their first game. Pumas is not a walk in the park, so I want to see. They are at home, so I want to see how they do there. And we'll see how the reigning champions Tigres do with Monarcas coming in. So Santos Chivas maybe. In week 2, just gonna Puebla gets a week off, and some big games that I want to see there. For me, Chivas and Tigres will play each other. They'll be at Chivas in week 2. Leon and America will be playing in week 2 at Leon. And so there's a couple that I'm interested in seeing there. And then finally in week 3, just give the first 3 weeks, San Luis gets off. And by the way, if you're not familiar with Atletico San Luis, they have won the last 2 seasons of Ascenso, which is why they moved up. They knocked off, Dorados. Basically, they made Maradona retire. Either they ran out of drugs or he was tired of losing, one of the two. So San Luis is not a pushover. I'm really curious to see how Juarez is, or what they even are. Cause yeah.
Well, they were really fun to watch. I watched the playoffs for the both Ascenso, for the Apertura and Clausura, and they're a really fun team to watch. I think they actually did the smart thing and signed a couple players.
Yeah.
Instead of just going at it with their team that won the Ascenso. And I think, I mean, they're actually a deserving team because they did both. They won both tournaments, which means they didn't even have to play another match against the previous winner.
Mm.
So I'm interested in seeing if they're gonna capitalize on this affiliation with Atletico, because they also have a couple players from Atletico Madrid.
Yeah.
There.
I would say out of the 2 new teams, I'm more excited about what if San Luis is going to mix it up versus Juarez. I think Juarez could turn into something, but I do like, by the way, the one thing I do about Juarez, I like having another team in the north, and so I do like that element.
And maybe that's why they brought them in, because
yeah.
Who else aside from Tigres and Monterrey and Tijuana? Who else is from there? I mean, Santos.
Santos a little bit. Yeah. So that was my first kind of big question. They kind of go hand in hand. Thoughts on the 2 new teams, and then more importantly, your thoughts on this new 19-team league. We're getting out of tradition here. We don't have 18 teams. What do you think about having, as I say in American football terms, having a bye week? What do y'all think about that format change this year?
I knew it was going to happen. I'm not crazy about it just because I've been used to a game every weekend. Mm-hmm. And obviously you have some weekends where you're off because they go play for their national team. But I wouldn't mind having a week off. It gives some of our players some rest time, and then we get to go back at it. But
is it going to be rest, though? Or are some of the teams like y'all's 2 squads, even my squad, are they going to exploit that to go have their players go play some exposition game for money, in the United States?
Right.
It's how you use it. It's
exactly.
how you use it.
Yeah, I could see that actually happening, but just depending on, like, ours isn't. Well, I know that there's a big rest week, I believe, for everybody in September. That's the national team playing. Mm-hmm. So that happening, you'll have that. So I'm not crazy about it, but I can see why they did it. And then introducing these 2 teams, it's money to Liga MX. Liga MX is just trying to bring in more money, which is smart. They're money business, so that's what they want. But I mean, it makes sense. I understand it.
I'm interested to see what they do at the end of this year, because I do think everyone likes 70. They've said publicly they want to go to 20 teams.
Yeah.
So I'm curious as to what that means. Does that mean that everybody is safe from relegation this year, and you're going to automatically promote 1, or does that mean 2 are going to get promoted and someone still gets relegated? You know what I'm saying? I'm curious. I don't know if y'all have heard something. I haven't heard anything about how they plan on doing that.
They have to stick to the relegation. They just can't get rid of it. Somebody has to drop. So I
think means 2 new teams come in?
2 new teams will come up, and then 1 team will drop, depending on how the points are working. But
should be Veracruz.
I think.
Yeah, no kidding.
I think it's gonna be. I hope this becomes kind of like La Liga, in Spain or all these other European teams where it's a series of number of teams that are relegated, not just one.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to come in play with this year's point system. I mean, not that it counts for the Apertura, but we have Chivas looming in there.
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
should be crazy.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like my dad says, it's not going to happen. They're going to put their money in some miracle way. They're going to win another championship.
Not against us, though.
And they'll brag about how they did it with an all-Mexican team.
Right.
And, you know.
I don't mind them beating Cruz Azul, though.
Yeah.
Cruz Azul if you want.
So that was my first question. Second question is kind of just overall. I mean, it's been kind of the crazy. We'll get into some of the transfers here, but it's been kind of the Wild West of. There's been some weird moves. There's going to be some more moves, based off of like right now. Not trying to predict the future. Where do you think? Who do you think has made a substantial move, either positive or negative, going forward or backwards in this offseason so far? If you had to pick one team that you think has done the most, and then another team who you think has done the least, who would you go with out of these teams? For me, when I look at it, I think some of your traditional players. I think Club America has made some splashes and some moves. I'm a little disappointed in Rayados so far because I wanted them to do some more. I think Cruz Azul's not done.
They're still waiting for players.
I think they're waiting on a lot, but their team is willing to spend money. Tigres has had some few moves here and there, but I don't know. I mean, do you think anyone has? We know the traditional powers. We know who we expect in that top 8 generally, give or take. There's a few that switch out. Has anybody made a big enough move to really change the standings, do you think, and how that kind of plays out?
I haven't seen any big players announce or anything. The only big player that I seen that Tigres had that they were talking about, but it's up and down, is Danny Alves. Just a defender. He's getting old. I wouldn't mind having him because, I mean, having Danny Alves on a Tigres jersey, man, that's crazy. But I don't see any teams that made a big enough move to where it would guarantee them a championship or guarantee messing up the top 8. You're going to see your normal top 8, but I don't see any team that was able to actually make a difference.
Richard?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, aside from like the big news on America's social platforms that Giovanni.
So I have to ask you about that. As an America fan, do you see what sort of impact do you see Dos Santos making on Club America?
I mean, and no one was expecting him to actually make the move. But now that he's there, I think he has a lot to prove to himself because these last 2 years, his level of play has gone down. He got called up to the 2018 Men's World Cup squad, but he didn't even play squat, right? So I think it's a personal challenge for him. And I'm glad for him as a person and as a player because he's going to get to recover that, something that he lost in the Galaxy. I mean, he was a cover boy for LA Galaxy 2 years ago. But, I mean, his brother is the one who's making waves now. And, I mean, I'm hoping for him to kind of add something that we haven't had because we lost Oribe. I think that's probably, like, the only moves that I've seen.
That was the only
Chivas.
Controversial one. Chivas taking Oribe from America. That was probably the biggest one that everybody was like, whoa, why would he do that? You're not supposed to do that. You're not supposed to go to your
And he has personal reasons why he did that. I'm all for it because he wants to expand to develop more Mexican players in the Liga MX. Yeah. And the only way to do that on a marketing standpoint would be to join the team that vouches for that.
Yeah.
Instead of being with Club America, who is historically not known for like.
No, they go all over the place. Right. You got Chile, Argentina. You got all over the place.
I was speaking of a few other just Mexican players, and I found interesting. I was looking at stuff, and if you guys heard others, I love to hear them. But there's been rumors out there, and I was looking at stuff with Monterrey. It doesn't benefit us. It's curious what we would do with it afterwards. But there's been some talks of Gallardo getting some looks from Europe, specifically Atletico Madrid. Have been in talks with Monterrey. I'm just curious as to what we would get for that, money wise, or and what we could do with that. But it'd be interesting for that. Just so we know, because we joked about him earlier, Chicharito actually is getting some look. Fiorentina from Serie A is actually looking at Chicharito, so maybe we'll see him back there. The other Rayados thing I had for you that I was looking at was that they were potentially talking with Bocas about Benedetto. Yeah. So I think Rayados are going to make some moves. I think they've been kind of quiet. The one thing I did see.
Well, I know Benedetto shut it down. He said he's focused on Boca.
Right.
He responded.
And he has like a personal goal, which is the Libertadores, because
that's what he wants,
right?
Yeah.
So.
I heard some stuff, like I said, with Tigres, with Alves. I also saw some rumor mills going about them. Tigres looking at Lucas Silva from Real Madrid.
Yeah.
So I've seen those going on. Those are the big ones that I've seen. Cavallini from Puebla has been on target for a lot of people.
Who was on the Canadian side? He had a really good matchup. I think he scored a hat trick.
Yeah.
So
in one of the games against.
So he got his stock up. But I'm just kind of curious, who should we pay attention to Liga MX wise? Any things that you guys got or want to share your ideas of what you think should be in terms of the transfer market that could have significant impacts on teams? I mean, who do you think is still going to be making some moves? Like I said, I think Monterrey is going to throw some money in there. I think Cruz Azul is still going to throw some money. Those are my two teams I think are going to still throw some substantial money around.
Right. I think we have to wait. We're probably going to have to wait till week
deadline.
2 or week 1, because our the Liga MX transfer market doesn't close until like everywhere else, because in Europe it's still going to be open for a week or two more, right?
Yeah.
So Rayados, Tigres, America, Cruz Azul are trying to bring in players from Europe. They're gonna try to negotiate as close as possible to their deadline over there.
We're gonna try and wait till the last minute, but there's a few teams that I can see. The only one that I can see like actually showing up all of a sudden is Chivas. Maybe I could actually see them starting to show up now, but they don't have a choice but to show up. They're getting close to that point to where they can get relegated. So
well, see, this is what I love and hate about this. We have this conversation. It's because because Liga MX is such a cluster of Wild West of. That's what I love and hate about it. I love and hate that a team that was absolute trash one year can the next year go all the way to like a semifinals or even heck win a championship, or vice versa. A team that wins a championship can literally suck the next year.
Yeah.
I've never seen. There's very few leagues that I see this swing like crazy.
Yeah.
It's both exciting and fun, and it's what makes Liga MX unique. It's also incredibly frustrating for people like us who are trying to make predictions. And when it gets down to it, we stick with our home squads, with our main squads, because there's no point. There's no point. You can't. I mean, why? Even if you didn't believe your home squad was, they still got a 50-50 chance, and everything. So,
but I think,
like, would you ride with Chivas? I mean, Chivas has been trash, but then all of a sudden they can win a championship.
yeah.
and I think this is where that bye week is gonna become a strategic portion to the squads. I mean, if you're gonna have a lot of players on the squad, then maybe that's gonna be the time to try it out after the bye week. If you see that they're still not well rested, or if you want to try something different, that'll be the time to do it, because now you actually have a week off. But that's also gonna put the pressure that it's still gonna be 18 matches that you're gonna be playing.
Yeah.
So 17 matches.
Yeah, it's gonna go up. I mean, like I said, you still got that number of matches, and
how is the relegation gonna work? How many teams are gonna have to worry about that coming into this? Are they even gonna have to worry about it? Because if they don't,
I think it'll be much easier once they get to 20. But they're also, when Mexico's faces also the dilemma. Kind of some of their issue is not with their top tier league. I think their issue is that they keep pulling teams up and down. They need to get the second division bigger and more prominent.
Because it's shrinking.
It's shrinking. It's gotten smaller in their format, and so.
Because Veracruz didn't go to the Ascenso.
So it's kind of what I call it's gilded, and that it looks really nice and shiny up top, but underneath its core, I think Mexico needs to be careful as a federation, as a national organization, looking at the money and the ownership of the second, even the third division going forward, because that's what's going to make that product. Because if not, your product up here is going to start slacking. And the other thing you pair with that is what you brought up a lot, is the trend that you saw with Gignac and people getting more Europeans and international people in there. I'm really curious if Chivas is going to continue their Mexico-only kind of attitude.
I think they will, and the only way they're gonna cheat it is like how they've been cheating it. I mean, not cheating it, but like if there's a soccer player who was born outside, right, and has a dual citizenship.
Dual citizenship, yeah.
Right.
And there's about 3 Mexican Americans, people of American and Mexican citizenship who are on their roster right now. You see that all the time.
Yeah.
Well, the last big thing I want to transfer thing I want to talk about, and it wasn't even about Mexico. Then I'll open it up if you guys got any last final thoughts on stuff or big takeaways. Is the whole drama circle between PSG, Barcelona, Atletico, heck, Real Madrid's getting into it. Juventus getting into it. The big thing being, and the rumors came out and everyone got crazy, was that Barca, we all knew about Neymar, in my opinion, being a little bit of a baby. Didn't work out his way. He went off on his own for 2 years. The prodigal son wants to come home to Barcelona so he can win some more championships. Okay, I get it. But at the same time, I also respect PSG. Hey, man, we spent 220 whatever million euros on you. For 2 years, we ain't letting you go that easy. So there's a lot of talks going on there. What I love also going at the same time is the crazy stuff with Griezmann from Atletico Madrid. He wants out. The club's calling him out. And the big rumor out there is that Barca, at the end of this whole thing, could end up with Griezmann, Neymar, and still have Messi and Suarez. That would be a nasty, nasty. If they do that and they don't win next year's Champions League, it is an absolute failure. I say that because if you stack the cards, the deck, that strong, and you don't win a Liga title and Champions, it's the biggest disappointment ever with the amount of money they're spending.
And that's just going to prove a thing that we were talking about throughout this whole show. There has to be compatibility. Like, yes, these are stars, but it's like if you were to put Cristiano Ronaldo and Messi play together, who would be their backups? How would you make that team work? Will Cristiano be a forward? Will Messi be a forward? Right?
What we're talking about is, first of all, Coutinho, hypothetically,
Right.
if they were to keep Coutinho, which they would, Coutinho and Dembele, would be the backups on that squad.
Right.
A lot of the talks we've heard of was PSG wanted Coutinho or someone else doing a swap deal like that. But that's my point. I mean, it's the curse of too much talent. I mean, you got a lot of talent, but are they compatible? Like you just said, you're not going to put Ronaldo and Messi on the same thing. I wouldn't put some NBA fans are going to call me crazy, but I wouldn't put LeBron and Kevin Durant together. I just wouldn't. I don't see that as a fit. Could it work? Potentially, yeah. Could it, but it's just too much. So
it's like a video game. You can make it work because you're controlling the game, but they're not individual pieces when you're actually like.
It's also so stereotypically. I'm sorry, any Europeans watching. It is so just European soccer drama. I mean, Neymar. I've never been a huge Neymar fan, but he's being a little girl about this. Like, just come on, like get the deal. And the organizations too. And the organizations are being little girls too.
Not even little girls. They're just not handling this how they're supposed. They're just gaining media attention. I think that's what PSG is.
They want media attention.
They're a brand.
Used to.
Exactly, because PSG honestly, it's not a world class team.
No.
They just have star players.
Atletico isn't either, but they're trying to milk the media so they can get some attention their way. Because the only teams from there that get attention are Real Madrid and Barcelona.
There was someone who took a shot at PSG. I forgot which. It was a La Liga team that basically said something along the lines of, "But we don't need to sell players" or something like that, or something like, "We're not a development team for that. People come to us."
Right.
So
I'm not surprised by it. It's Europe. They're used to the media attention. They're trying to milk it as much as they can.
So
season starts.
Yeah.
Before we get going here, it's going to be a little longer than we planned on, but before we get going, and any final thoughts, and maybe you want to think for a second. I got my final thoughts. I'll share over to y'all. Anything that you want to, last things people should be looking forward to going forward here, or any big takeaways. For me, 2 big things. If you're not a fan of Liga MX just in general or have a team to follow, this is the year to do it because it's going to, I think, it'd be a pivotal, changing year in the league, and see how the dust settles at the end of it by this time next year. And then locally, like I said, it is cheap to go support the Dynamo. I know that their product hasn't been the best on the field. I still say that, there has to be some big changes, but I think supporting them in bigger games, like coming up against Club America, which things don't happen.
Seattle.
Seeing them in LAFC and Seattle, I think those are big things. So it's cheap to go out there. So locally, that's my message. Internationally, take a deep breath. We just got over all these tournaments, more coming, because the world soccer is about to start all over again. With Liga MX starts up, that means Europe and everyone else is going to kick into gear too. So we're about to start that whole saga again. So that's my big takeaway and thoughts. And guys, you got any big things you want to share, and we can wrap it up.
This weekend, if you want to get a head start, well, not necessarily a head start, but if you want to see some Mexican soccer and get back into the routine, this Sunday we're going to have 2 games. You have Tigres America for Campeón de Campeones, and you'll have Cruz Azul versus Necaxa in the Super Copa MX. That'll be playing same day, same stadium on Sunday. I will be out there, so if I can bring you some live content from LA, I will. But look out for posts and pictures from LA. I will be out there. We'll go watch Tigres play for the second year.
Nice.
Yeah, that's all I have.
Yeah, well, something we mentioned, and we still can't take a break from this because it's still going on, is the Africa Cup of Nations.
Yeah.
So this is their version of the Gold Cup or the Copa America in the continent, right?
Yeah.
And I don't think too much of our surprise, Nigeria. I think that was the one game that we were all like looking forward to with South Africa because they beat Egypt, right? So Nigeria ended up winning 2-1. Tunisia ended up beating Madagascar 3-0.
World Cup team.
Right. Algeria, who has also been in the World Cup before, beat Ivory Coast in penalties. So this was based on this. They went to penalties 3-4. Must have been a tough match. And then Senegal ended up beating 1-0 Benin, which I haven't heard of.
So Senegal and Tunisia will play each other on the 14th. That's this Sunday. And also this Sunday, but later, Algeria and Nigeria will play each other. Big upsets for this. Ghana was the big crash-out upset in this tournament, and so was the host country of Egypt. So it'd be interesting to see there. They're going to wrap up. They are the last one this summer, so we've had CONCACAF, we have CONMEBOL, we've had the African Cup. Earlier in the spring, in February, we had the Asian Cup. UEFA is next summer, I believe, right? So that'll be the next
2020
next big one that everyone's going to tune in for, that they don't do at the same time. So.
But on behalf of me, I'm going to be trying as much as possible to start gaining content, because as well, we're going to see the men's leagues starting popping up. We're also going to see the female leagues popping up, the Liga MX Femenil. The NWSL is still going on. It's like the MLS. It runs from the spring all the way to the fall. Unfortunately, the Houston Dash, they haven't won a game during this whole World Cup break. They've haven't been able to win at home or away. So hopefully they're actually going to be playing this Saturday against who was it? Oh my gosh.
Oh, the 7-1-3 game.
Yes,
against.
Is Orlando?
No, they already played them. They're playing.
Chicago.
Let's see. Nope, don't even have the name. But yeah, they're gonna be playing this Saturday, and I mean, the thing with the NWSL is that it's only 9 clubs, so only 4 teams are gonna advance to the playoffs after all of this, after playing twice, and unfortunately, the Dash haven't been able to make it.
Chicago.
Okay, Chicago. So Chicago Red Stars. Thank you.
Yep.
And so if you want to go to the game, please attend the match. I actually won't be there. I'm gonna be working. So, so I would have liked to make. I actually this summer working with the Dynamo, I've been more invested into.
Which, if you didn't know that, by the way, our very own Richard Romero is a intern with the Houston Dynamo. So yes, we have an insider now.
Yes. But as far as everything goes, like, I'm gonna be trying to bring in more content. Hopefully, we're gonna start getting these graphics working up for our next show. If not before the year ends, it's all falling on me, because I really want to make it look a little bit more aesthetically pleasing to y'all, as well as so we don't have to be talking about this information, but maybe it'll be scrolling down on the screen. And yeah, so we can make this a little bit more produced show. And moving forward, there are going to be a lot of more projects. I'm going to be trying making my videos that I did also in the spring, where I was like doing like 10-minute recaps of every week of matches. And I mean, hopefully you all are liking it, and let us know. Please like the page, send down comments. En español también aceptamos los comentarios. Déjenos like en la página de Texas Soccer Live. Pueden seguir nuestras plataformas también en Instagram, en social media. También we have a Twitter account as well. So we're hoping to revamp all of our stuff so y'all can have things to watch out for as well.
And if you're a big fan of the page, we got our show shirts. They got the last 3 years. If you're interested and you want one of our show shirts from the last 3 years, we got various sizes. Just message the page, or message me directly. I'll see if we got your size. And if you're a big supporter of us and want to rep us, we'll get that.
So, yeah.
So, all right. Well, speaking of aesthetically pleasing, I'm Sean Telez. As always, Raul Villarreal, and live with us this month, Richard Romero. For Texas Soccer Live, y'all have a good one. Peace out. Cue the DJ.
Era el DJ pendejo, güey.